Steelers.
Pittsburgh do this all the time. I've been playing them for 13 years. When you avoid the middle, they go into the middle. It's never changed.
And welcome back. Do we got Bo with us here? I hope so, because if not, we're in trouble here.
Yeah, we are here. We are live, my brother.
I think we might have lost you, bud. I'm hoping not.
Really?
Yeah, we think we lost you.
I can.
Let me see what I can do here. Come on, Bo.
I'm here. Hello, hello, hello. Hello, hello, hello.
I don't see you on the picture here, big guy, on the OBS. I don't know what happened. Let me give a couple seconds here, folks. We're working through. We're working through. So, let me
2020 problems.
Yep. We love it. So, I got you. Hold on.
Okay.
I got you. We'll get it hooked up here.
I'm used to the audio spot anyway, so it wouldn't bother me if I went with full audio.
So, where's he at? Where you at? Okay, come on now. I know you're back there. I seen you before. I seen you back there before. Now just decide to say no. We don't want to see Bo today.
I'm not looking my prettiest, so it might be doing you a favor.
This was all working when we recorded it, fellas. Okay.
As soon as it went live, it just dropped my video feed.
It dropped everything. Let me see. I think we can hear you. Maybe.
Yeah, I mean, you can hear me. Who knows if they can?
Now, why is it doing that to me here? We should definitely have you. I got you right here.
Yeah. I don't need to share my screen, do I?
No, I don't think so. They just don't. It doesn't like seeing your face this morning, Bo.
Hey, like I said, man, I'm used to going audio. You're the face of the sermon anyway.
We got to get you in here, though. That's the problem. We got to get your smiling face.
Yeah. We will overcome and adapt.
Might just have to, bro.
Yeah.
Because it is not having it. NDI. One more time. Let's see what we got. NDI. Mr. Bo McCauley. Let's get him up here, folks. Okay, that's me. I'm downsizing me. Now, where are you at? Well, bud, we might just have to go me only and just get your audio, if that's all right.
Hey, bro, I'm fine. I'm not worried about my face. Like every podcast I've ever done's been all audio, so I'm all fine.
I feel like you're like the voice of reason right now. Like you're my conscience of what's going on.
I'm Morgan Freeman from Bruce Almighty right now.
Sweet.
Talking down to you.
All right. If you're all right with that, like I said, I apologize, everybody.
No.
It's we're having some technical difficulties, but we'll adjust and adapt here.
Happy to be here, regardless.
So
I wouldn't want to be anywhere else.
Alrighty, so we're going to go ahead and jump in. I do want to welcome my guest. You hear his voice. I don't know why the NDI is not working. It don't like me this day. So anyway, we'll get into the Steel City Sermon. I love my boy, Bo. we had about 2 or 3 months ago, we had a podcast with none other than your co-host of the TSR podcast, Mr. Jacob Patterson. We did a Steelers draft breakdown, or it was a free agency recap. And we talked, I think it was like 2 hours.
Just a whole off-season recap. We did everything. Free agency ads. We did draft. We did review and recap of the previous season, predictions for the season upcoming. We did all kinds of stuff.
And we ran that show, and Jacob being a Bengals fan, he didn't know what to do with 2 big guys talking Steeler football. So what better guest could I ask for the rivalry week against the Baltimore Ravens? So I had to get my boy Bo on here for the 15th episode of the Steel City Sermon. And we're going to go ahead and jump in right into the prelude, how this works. Bo, I'm sure you've watched before. We get a little bit of thoughts of last week's game, then we go through maybe some pertinent topics of the news, then we get into the meat and potatoes in the sermon portion. Then we give our preview of this week's game with some predictions. So go ahead, bud. What's your thoughts? I'm going to let you kick it off. What's your thoughts on the Titan victory? What do you got? You got anything in certain you want to throw out there?
Well, I thought we executed the first half plan perfectly. I think keeping the ball out of Derrick Henry's hands and not letting the Titans play with the lead in the beginning was crucial. I think that the way we played Derrick Henry, the gap discipline, there was a commitment to the run, but I don't think it was too over the top in the first half. We let up some mistakes in the second half, clearly. The 73-yard touchdown to A.J. Brown's a real game changer. It's kind of like the Miles Sanders TD in the Eagles game. It really just added points to them that was just yardage that could have been taken back by a simple tackle. So small mistakes really let them back in this game. And small mistakes that in the NFL are huge. They'll turn a game upside down. And that's what kind of happened to the Steelers is they got away from running the ball. I believe Ben Roethlisberger passed it way too much in the second half. I think our run game was controlling the first half. And and they figured out our short passing to an extent. So I'm not really sure the adjustments Tennessee made to figure that out. I'm sure it was probably some more man coverage up on the line and not getting beat. Like early on by guys like, Deontay Johnson. And Deontay Johnson leaving the game definitely hurt our short passing game against them for sure because Malcolm Butler could not cover him. He had no chance all day long. But I just think Big Ben took on too much of a risky role in the game, and that's what let the Titans back in it. And I know you hated it. I know you hated it, that pick at the end of this first half where he tried to force that thing to Juju, triple coverage. You hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you, but I'm thinking we might have been having some issues with the NDI, of course, again. Kind of waiting to see here for sure, but go ahead, keep going. We're gonna keep going until we don't hear you anymore.
Yeah, I was just kicking it back over to you and seeing what you thought about that. That was a free 3 points we had right there. That three, you get that 3 points. And you make one tackle, and Minkah Fitzpatrick makes his tackle on the A.J. Brown play, and we're looking at a different ball game and a whole different conversation about the Pittsburgh Steelers. I think there was a lot of doubt to them getting the number 1 overall power ranking on ESPN and other sites like them. But I think if we don't allow the A.J. Brown big play and you get a stop there and you get that 3 points, and Ray McLeod takes a right instead of a left on his punt return. And we're looking at the Steelers that ran the Titans off the road in their hometown.
Yeah,
and I think that's a whole other conversation.
Yeah, and you hit the nail on the head. That last drive with Ben, when you started off talking about Juju, I was pulling my hair out. Like, I'm sorry, I get what I think it was is a statement more than anything. I think he was just trying to, I don't want to say feed the personality of Juju, but kind of just reward him a little of saying, hey, I'm thankful that you're not AB. I'm thankful that you're not, complaining that you ain't getting the ball. You're genuinely happy for everybody else. So I'm going to you there. I know he was saying, I trust my guy on the linebacker. Okay, I can maybe see that, but not with 2 safeties closing in over the top as well. That you just can't make that throw, especially with Deontay wide open underneath. It'd be one thing if everybody was locked down. But Deontay, like, Bo, you can speak to this. He's our most explosive receiver in space.
For sure.
Maybe outside of Ray McLeod, if you're going to consider him a pure receiver. But You can't let Deontay running wide on a crosser and take that throw. I get it. You could have checked that down. We probably would have got the first down, knowing his run after the catch ability, and probably ran the clock out. We wouldn't have had to worry about that last-second field goal getting missed by Gostkowski. So, but Derrick Henry, I'm sorry, that was a double chin strap game, and you just got introduced to Steeler football. I know everybody was writing off that our defense, minus Devin Bush, wasn't going to be able to hold their weight against him. Well, I'm sorry, Robert Spillane put his big boy pants on and met him in the hole. I know his shoulder's a little barking at him afterwards, but
how did he play after that? Didn't he come back in the game?
Yeah, he came in late. I think the next, but I mean that's a big boy coming downhill, and he just straight up stopped him right in the hole. So
that is a freight train.
And that to me, I'd be like stopping the Incredible Hulk, and who has a head of steam coming at you. But that guy, I think he made a statement saying, Devin Bush, I think I'm fine. You don't need to go out there and be getting another linebacker. Although, we'll get into it here a little bit later, they might have to wind up getting into the linebacker market due to UG3 being injured again. But this defense as a whole, and we were talking before we came on live here, Cam Hayward, Stephon Tuitt, their hand usage, and let's not forget about Tyson Alu. We all were talking about Javon Hargrave. We're going to miss him and stuff. Pittsburgh hasn't missed him one lick. Tyson Alu has been, in my opinion, an all-pro level going through right now.
It's definitely his best year, for his whole career. I think it's by far, he is a force to be reckoned with on this team right now. I mean, I think it's the first year you're looking at teams game planning for Tyson.
Yeah, absolutely. And the way he's able to play that shade zero tech, like he plays almost like who's the old nose, or Jay Ratliff for the Cowboys, where he lined up with just one shoulder on the center. He wasn't letting him get that center punch off of him. And his hand use, like he's so quick off the ball, like he's just aging like a fine wine. He's 33 years old. We got to get him re-signed. I know he's an older dude, but hey, we wanted to toss out a couple more names here about the Titans game. I know me and you were both talking about our safety play. Minkah had a little, I don't know if you want to call it business decision, but he didn't want no business. AJ Brown there, he wound up whiffing. But let's talk about the other safety, who's really somebody that takes a lot of beating in the Pittsburgh media, Terrell Edmunds. I'll let you run on this for a little bit, because you were really complimenting him here before we started off.
Yeah, man, and you're really pointing out the most important thing is that, can you name a player in the last 3 years that has been under fire in our defense more than Terrell Edmunds? Since the day he was drafted, he has been the most scrutinized player, mostly because nobody believed in his first-round talent. But the Steelers believe, I think the Steelers are one of the few teams that are okay with taking a first-rounder knowing he has flaws. But they believe in his talent, and it's kind of like picking up the Alu pickup late in his life. They know that there's room to grow still, but they know they're the team for it. Like, we have worked with Tyson Alu, and you can see the growth. Each year he has been better since joining this team. And Terrell Edmunds, people don't like to admit it, but he has been better, and they won't say that he's been better because teams have really planned to put tight ends on him in bad situations. And you can tell this year that he said, no more of that. I'm tired of getting beat over the top. I'm tired of being on a highlight reel. And I'm gonna get my fundamentals down. I'm gonna learn how to check these big guys and realize that their ball skills aren't as good as some of these outside number one receivers, and then I can get up in there and make a play just by getting my fundamentals right. I mean, his hands on pass breakups, he's there in position, and he's getting his hands in on the ball. He's making it hard for receivers to see the ball when it comes up in the air and they try to hit him with the high point. Because, I mean, as well as me, everybody targeted him up high and away from him. They were all, even when Johnny Smith had his, that was a fade over his top shoulder. That was what that was, and that's what they've been trying to go for. And Terrell Edmunds you can tell, it probably helps having a brother that's 6'5" that he can work with any day of the week, in Tremaine. So, I mean, I'm sure, and they all played offense at one point in their life. I'm sure he's just telling Tremaine to run a fade at, and him just trying to get up on him and learning how to play with his size and get up on bigger players. And he's really doing that. And I mean, his tackling is always there. He's always filling his run gaps properly. I think he's a really good blitzing safety, personally. And this week, I really hope that they put him on Mark Andrews. And like me and you talked about before the podcast, I mean, the Steelers have played Evan Ingram, Noah Fant, Darren Fells, and Zach Ertz, and Austin Hooper, the highest paid tight end in football. And I guess other than like George Kittle now, second highest paid tight end probably now. They're all quality tight ends. Those are not practice squad tight ends. These are not surprise guys like Robert Tonyan from the Green Bay Packers that we're planning for, or Tyler Kroft. Like these are guys that are 6'5", 6'6". They're touchdown targets in their offense. Evan Ingram runs a 4.4, and none of them had a good game against the Steelers. I can't even recall if any of them caught a touchdown against us, to be honest. Noah Fant might have.
I think he might have got one, but that's it. Like you're saying, like, the production is just not there. Like if they're getting it, it's usually in garbage time, or it's extending a drive, or we're stopping them short. Like they have not made that game-breaking play like we were always, wound up being susceptible to down the seam. Like these guys are just tight end enforcers. They're locking up, single coverage. That's not bracket coverage. We're allowing, Minka still able to roam around freely, especially with, and this guy in person, Bo, seeing him in training camp last year whenever I was there, he's one of the most athletic players I think I've ever seen at the safety position. Like when he was jumping at the goal line whenever they were doing the goal line series, he was about hitting his helmet off the field goal post. That's how high he was skying. And I'm serious. He probably had another 2 or 3 inches he could have went up over. He just knew that's where the field goal post was, because he was matching up with tight ends. And this guy, like you said, he's never afraid to do the dirty things. No. He's really a similar guy. I see a case that faced a lot of criticism in Bud Dupree, and myself was somebody who always criticized Dupree. It was never for a lack of effort. It was never for a lack of athleticism. It just sometimes guys take a little longer to get to be that final product. And if they wouldn't have been patient with Bud as long as they were, whenever a lot of us fans were like, get rid of him, look how much of a stud he is this year. And last year as well with his run defense, and now being the complete package as a pass rusher. You can't teach athleticism. I was reading an article, I believe it was at Steelers.com. They were talking about Chase Claypool and when they went and drafted him. And they were kind of projecting it similar to the way they scout players. And what they really look at is, A, can you run? And your athleticism, are you either a freak athlete, or can you just, at your base minimum, be a ridiculous athletic specimen? And 2, is your character. All the rest of the stuff will fall in place, because if your character and your athleticism is there, we can work with your work ethic to make you a better player and teach you that. And those two guys right there are key positions and key players that you can see that, we're going to take that piece of clay, mold into what we want. And Terrell Edmonds, the arrow is definitely pointing up, especially throughout this first half of the year. He's one of the main reasons why we're able to blitz as much as we're able to, because of his ability to do that one-on-one coverage with the tight ends. It's been simply amazing to watch.
It's great seeing this defense not be afraid. I remember like 2017, to think about the Steelers in anything but a soft zone, it was terrifying. Just thinking about the Steelers with Mike Mitchell on the back end and Sean Davis in man-to-man coverage, I'm like, it was absolutely nauseating trying to watch a third down with this defense a few years ago. And now, when I see a 3rd and 6, I'll go up and get another drink from the refrigerator.
Yep, because I trust them. Yep, if the front 7 don't get to him, that back end's going to lock them down. So our cornerback play needs a little bit of work, but the safety tandem I've been happy with.
Now, and with the cornerbacks, I mean, do you think that is it a regression from Steven Nelson, or do you believe that? Because I believe that Joe Hayden, I think they went after him kind of a week ago, but Steve Nelson to me seems like he has taken a step back. I feel like when Joe Hayden has a bad game, like they found the matchup that's bad for Joe Hayden, but I don't feel like I've seen a good matchup for Steven Nelson yet, other than like the Browns game.
No, Steven Nelson it needs to be put on notice. He has been the weak link this year. As good as he was last year, he's been that bad this year. Just his ability. I don't know. Last year, he just looks like he's lacking confidence this year. I know he has the 2 interceptions, but that was more a product of a bad throw. more than his good play. And Joe Hayden is what he is. Joe Hayden is the savvy veteran. He is an outstanding number 2 corner. That's what he is at this point. He's never been a speed demon, but he'll always come up and make that quality. He almost reminds me of a late career Deshae Townsend. Like Deshae Townsend was able to stick around for those last 4 or 5 years. It wasn't because he was a quality athlete, as what he was when he came out. No, it was because he had the smarts. He knew his technique. He knew how to, how the wide receiver is going to attack him, and he knew how to kind of cheat the system and how to get to the point where he needed. But you see in matchups where Joe Hayden's faced up with a quality playmaker outside, he's going to be a step behind him. Like, he just does not have the straight line speed. But if you face him in breaking routes, his anticipation and his route recognition allows him to be in there and make a lot of pass defense. That's what I mean. Like, he's a great value what he is. I wouldn't want to trade him for the world because he's a great leader in that secondary. But Steven Nelson, he was our number one corner last year, and he is not this year. He might be our 4th best corner in actuality. And if he continually goes down this route, if he's not able to, turn it around, we might see Justin Lane outside if they don't go out and make a move for a corner. I really think, we'll get into this in the sermon portion. That's the one weak spot. Even more, I know everybody points to the linebacker position. They really have a mix and match of talents they can make up for that, because when we play nickel and dime, you're really not seeing a lot of players. You can mask that with maybe Terrell Edmonds as the safety coming down, or maybe another player come in and play some of that sorts.
Mike Hilton.
Right, Cam Sutton. You can kind of mask that deficiency of the speed that what Bush had. But on the rundowns, you're not losing much with Spillane and Vince Williams. I'm going to throw this out here to you. Not only Vince Williams, but T.J. Watt. We just got to appreciate him for what he is. Those guys are tied for the NFL league in tackles for loss this year, Bo. 12 tackles for loss. What would this defense be if we didn't have Vince Williams? For him to take his piece of humble pie last year and take a backseat to the washed-up Mark Barron and now make his presence felt this year, thank goodness for that guy, because he has always made a play when he's there. And now with Bush out even more this year, Vince Williams has been playing at an all-pro level like an Alu.
Yeah, I agree. And I think when Vince Williams signed that contract a few years ago for like $5 or $6 million a year to stick around, I think it was like 3 or 4 years, like $18 million. I was thinking, this is the right money. He makes mistakes. He has to come off the field every few downs. But now I'm like, so how are we going to pay Vince Williams? How are we going to keep him on our team? Because he's that, on top of the fact that he's constantly behind the line of scrimmage and making sure that plays stop before they get started. He has made it a point to not be as much of a liability in coverage, and because he doesn't, I don't think Vince wants to leave the field. No. I believe he is a guy who takes being brought off the field on passing downs personally. I believe that to him is saying that he can't do it, and I don't believe that Vince Williams is the type of guy that believes that he can't do anything. I think he believes anything's possible with his work ethic, and it's been so good to see him take that turn and be that guy wreaking havoc in the backfield, because T.J. Watt's gonna eat. T.J. Watt's gonna get his, but there has to be another guy who is saying, you're not going to move the ball today by running it. You're not going to control our clock. That clock is ours, and that's what guys like Vince Williams do. And I can't say enough about him. I mean, he gets a game ball every week.
Yeah, absolutely. You can tell he's one of the leaders on that defense. He's one of the ones that establishes the tempo and what type of game we play. It's that little taste of throwback football you still get in a league that's very finesse. And any player I can get like that, it'll put a hat on a hat and drive a guy backwards. I'll take that every day of the week. I do want to throw out just a couple more things here before we move on. The end of the first half, what was that? I'm sorry. Like, that bugged me to death. Okay, we get a penalty here or there. No, we're just going to load up and chuck and duck, and let's see if we get a touchdown. Let's come up with the field goal there, folks. Like, they were literally giving you a field goal. Like, run an out pattern. Let's pick up 5 or 6 more yards and then boot the field goal.
Wasn't it a 48-yard kick once we got the ball back on the turnover on downs?
Yeah.
And it was Boswell could have walked out and made I trust him to make a 48-yarder, no problem. If you can do it in Heinz Field, you can do it in any stadium. On that day, I believe he would have made that kick. But Ebron, was that an illegal shift? I think he did. It was I guess they call it a false start, but they say it's the false start sign. They say illegal shift, and I believe that's what he did. And that hurts. That's a veteran tight end getting that call in a position where in a game where if you walk in a half with a 21-point lead that this thing is not over. It's 3 possessions to the Titans. The way they hold the ball and their defense and their turnover differential are all things that get them back on the field again, and they hold the ball even longer once Derrick Henry eventually he found yardage. I mean, he did get up to 70 yards and a touchdown, but eventually he's going to get his, And I mean, I think those points were the turning point in the game. Them stopping us getting that pick set off the second half.
Absolutely.
They ran off the field down 3 touchdowns with a smile on their face. That's a problem.
Yeah, you can't let them go in with any hope at halftime because that is too good of a team. And that decision to me was like the top of the mountain and then the downswing for the second half is that little bit of coaching, ineptness really let the downslide turn, and then that's what made you have to make that throw to Juju in the last half. Not only that, for the most part this year, our coaching, especially on the offensive side, has been pretty impressive. They've felt the flow of the game, especially with the addition of Matt Canada with his motion concepts and giving the ball to Claypool and ends around and things like that. It's really opened up our offense, but we need that play action. James Conner has been running like a fool this year, and I've been hard on him with not being able to stay healthy. Up to this point, he looks like a featured back. I do think the future is McFarland and Snell, but he's been running hard. But we're like one of the 2 or 3 worst teams, in play action this year, and they really just tried to lean on it felt like they were just trying to kill the clock last week in the second half. No, we need to have that killer instinct. Tomlin likes to talk about, not living in our fears and playing that sort of ball. Well, if you run 3 straight runs in a cloud of dust and then punt, which punting has been one of the worst things on our team, it's not going to work. Keep your foot down on the pedal. We have too many weapons. If you would have put up one more touchdown in the second half, that game would have been moot point. We could have pinned our ears back, went after him. Derrick Henry, as you said, is going to get some yards at some point. You're not going to be able to contain him for 60 minutes without at least breaking one nice run because he's just simply too much of a freak athlete. So that to me was the little bit of coaching, ineptness really made the whole difference of the second half because it gave them that hope that they can still come back. And they've done it this year. That Titans team is a quality team. We're going to see them in the playoff picture, and we might see them later on in the playoffs, and that would be a kind of a neat function if we had to go back and face them. I kind of hope we get a chance to.
And I think if we did, I think the recipe would be the same. Don't let them get out to an early lead. At some point you want to have control of the clock because you can't. The Titans are eventually they're gonna score. So you want to keep the ball in your hands, and I believe that what you were saying about the play action and how we haven't been very good in the play action this season, do you think it has anything to do with how Ben is getting the ball out faster than any quarterback in the league this year? And do you think he's just showing too much antsiness in the play action? It's like he doesn't like the build up to the play action. I feel like he wants the ball snap in his hands and have it out to the guy that he thinks is going to be open pre-snap. And I love it's. The underneath stuff has been extremely successful for us this year. It's reminded me a lot of a Tom Brady-esque style of playing this offense. It's cut down on his interceptions. We've seen what happens when Ben takes it all the way and goes back to gunslinger Ben. You get 3 interceptions, and I don't think you beat the Titans twice with 3 interceptions, Roy.
No.
I believe that has to come down. And James Conner got lucky with that fumble at the red zone. I don't know if you remember that.
Yeah.
But that thing got taken out of his hands. It wasn't even hard. There, I could see on the replay, daylight. I could see the grass behind the ball because he didn't have it tucked right. He didn't have the points of the ball tucked in right, and you could see that ball just popped out. And that ball could have just as easily gone to Tennessee. And that drive, I believe, led to a touchdown. Okay, if we don't get that touchdown, Tennessee gets that ball back, you never know where this game is headed. James Conner is going to have to watch out for that. When we go back and possibly see Tennessee a second time, I don't think that we're going to get away with these turnovers twice. It's just no way.
Well, to me, that's why Benny Snell is so important to this offense. We've seen what he was able to do with already the 100-yard performance earlier this season. We've seen how much of a different athlete he is. I don't want to put the death knell on James Conner because he's produced this year and he's coming with the right attitude, but he's not the future of this backfield. Benny Snell, I think, is the future of this backfield, although Anthony McFarland is an explosive runner. Snell, in that performance, you could just see his tackle breaking ability, and he's still getting carries in the red zone, which should tell you something with that fumbling issue, even though he hasn't lost one yet this year, that they trust him. I know Snell's put the ball on the ground too this year, that they trust him to be that workhorse, and it fits this type of offense. If you want the dink and dunk passing and maybe the play action or deep passing, you need a hard-nosed runner. It's going to get you those 3-4 yards on the first down. Yeah. That way you can set yourself up for third and short and really see this whole proliferation of the offense come together. So that was pretty much everything I had on the Tennessee game. I was thankful that Gostkowski missed that kick, but we're undefeated, Bo, which I don't know if our listeners know. Yeah. I'll throw some stats out here. We are the last undefeated team in the NFL. If you haven't heard it yet, this is only the second time in franchise history since we've won the first 6 games. The only other season was 1978, if you're looking over here on the left-hand side of the banner. It was one of our Super Bowl years when we beat the Dallas Cowboys. In NFL history, folks, there's only been 92 teams who have started 6-0. And since 1970, which was the merger year, there have been 59 teams to start 6-0, and 56 of them already made the playoffs. So I think we're pretty shooing the bucket here that we're going to get into the playoffs. But only 29 of the 59 started their season, made it to the Super Bowl, which equates to just under 50%. So let's hope, Bo, that we're in that 50%.
That's a stat that blows me away a little bit. I mean, I'm not a big guy on like previous years meaning a lot for your current year, because every year in the NFL is different. But that right there, that's a big number.
Yeah,
it's a big number of teams that made it to the Super Bowl.
Yeah, that to me too. I'm like, only 50%, but hey, that's the way it goes. Like you say, parity in playoffs, you only got to beat them once. Somebody shows up, they can whoop on anybody. So
I think 29 out of 59 teams who started 6-0 making it to the Super Bowl is a lot. I mean, it is incredibly hard to win in the playoffs in this league. It is a chess game out there every week in the playoffs, from the wild card round to the Super Bowl, and I just think that's a lot of teams to do it, and it gives me a lot more hope for this season knowing that many teams went that far with it.
There we go. So we're going to move on to our second topic here of the prelude portion. One of our old friends, one of the old hosses up front, who was a great player for us. He was an undrafted free agent, B.J. Finney, who signed with the Seahawks. Got traded back now, Bo. He's back in the AFC North. He got flipped for Carlos Dunlap. There was a 7th-round pick also attached to him to Cincinnati here. But for us Steeler fans, I want to kind of put out the fire a little bit. I know we kind of always look, because a couple years ago we wasn't very active in the trade front, but this year and the last couple years we have been. Don't be worried. We're probably going to be getting still a compensatory pick back from him. We're kind of set up this year with Javon Hargrave. He's going to be in that 4th-round compensatory pick, according to overthecap.com, who does great work and projections for that. And their key guy in that aspect, Nick Corte, who's a friend I've talked to a few times. This guy, he kind of put out a tweet saying that they don't need to worry about it, but that the Steelers will still probably be on deck for that 6th-round pick. But now, since they trade for Finney, now Cincinnati will have him in the equation if they would be getting rewarded a compensatory pick at all. So don't fear, Steeler Nation. We're still probably getting that 6th-round compensatory pick for him. And hey, Antonio Brown was a 6th-round pick, so you never know those guys you might be able to take a pick for late. And that's actually, Antonio Brown was a compensatory pick as well, not just a 6th-round pick, but a compensatory selection at that. So thoughts on B.J. Finney, Bo? Do you have any recollection or the type of player he is? We all seen what Joe Burrow has already been able to accomplish with the Bengals. I know they're beat up along that front. They lost 2 starters last week, in Williams and I believe it was Price or Jordan. He's going to probably come in and play early and often here.
Yeah, I agree. And I had a buddy shoot me a text about this. He's a Bengals fan. It wasn't Jacob; it was another Bengals fan. Texting me about it, and I said, make that trade 10 out of 10 times with Joe Burrow coming in. I would do the same thing if I was the Bengals. Joe Burrow can't continue to get hit this way, the way he has been. I believe he's learning, but I believe he'd learn better upright than on his butt. So I love the pick, and I mean BJ Finney's solid guard. I mean, he's no David DeCastro, but he's also not a guy who's a liability when you put him out there on Sunday. As long as he knows what he's supposed to do, I believe he can go out there to execute. He's going to be a guy I think is going to help Joe Mixon get some running room, and I believe on the interior it's going to help them a lot, keeping Joe Burrow from that interior pass rush, which is what can be so detrimental. Is that's where even the pocket collapses is where he's really getting nailed right now. I mean, he's not exactly making it outside and causing a lot of sacks for himself. I mean, the line's just crashing down on him in 3 seconds every play. So I think BJ Finney is going to add them a lot of stability to that line. And I told my buddies that I love the trade, and I'd have done the same trade. You have a disgruntled defensive end, and defense, you're not stopping anybody anyway at the moment. So I mean, what's the difference? You can keep your golden arm upright, or you can just keep not stopping guys, and you could give up a guy who's going to probably get 7 to 8 sacks this year with the way he's playing. And they've gotten so much out of Carlos Dunlap, I mean, and when I heard he tore his nameplate off his parking spot, I was like, good riddance. I wouldn't like him. I'd be like, you don't appreciate anything that happened there, I guess. I mean, he played a long time in Cincinnati. I'd expect a better breakup.
Yeah, he was one of the figureheads back there with Palmer and all them and the good teams that we faced. He was consistent pressure producer. I think he just didn't want to be a part of the rebuild. And those guys, as they were saying, he was sharing on social media the different rotations of the defensive line. You can't do that stuff. I'm sorry. And that is a young team. We've seen, like, Joe Burrow is a real deal, Steeler Nation. Like, that's something to be worried about in the future, that we have these guys, although I'm a noted Baker Mayfield hater. So Lamar Jackson maybe and Joe Burrow, but Baker's he's okay. I think he's better off without OBJ. We'll get to that maybe in another episode, but when we face Cleveland again. But yeah, it's just one of them things that this might be a long-term fixture because BJ signed for next year. So when he was in our lineup, when Marquise Pouncey was out, I believe he was like 17-1. So don't sleep on him. He's a grizzled guy, like you said. If he knows what he is, this system fits him. He's used to playing AFC North football. Playing that familiarity is going to get him on the field early and often. And you make great points that he's going to fit in there. He's going to keep that guy upright for a guy that you were probably going to release in the long term if nobody made you an option for him. So
I mean, it just shows you where Carlos Dunlap's he claims they weren't using him the right way or enough. But I mean, it just shows where Carlos Dunlap is. He's their franchise leader in sacks, and they're giving him away for a mid-level guard and a 7th round pick. It's time to part ways, and I think, like you said, you can release a guy, or you can bring in a veteran guard.
Yep. That was a shrewd move by the Bengals.
That guard, good move. And Bengals, as you've seen, I hate to keep talking about Cincinnati, but they are not good at evaluating offensive line talent in the draft. No. So veteran play for them is important. Bringing in guys can play ball is going to be huge. And I mean, they're going to have to draft linemen. Yes, that's something that they're going to have to focus on. But getting 2 veterans in there to anchor it in the middle would be huge.
Absolutely. So we're going to roll on here. This is the last point we're going to talk about, Bo, before we get to the sermon portion. I found another reason just to love Chase Claypool. I don't know if you got to see it yet. If you haven't, Bo, you should go down and click the link after this is all over. It was a tweet he put out. He posted a video. He was watching a video, of a Steelers fan who had a father who was just diagnosed with dementia. So, and this guy, his son, I believe it was his son that was taking it of his dad, and they were talking about how big of a Steeler fan he was throughout the 70s. He could name every player that was on the roster, similar to kind of how like me and you are nowadays. And he was kind of talking that, it'd be nice with his dementia that if any players were out there or anybody that was listening could send him some memorabilia like cards or jerseys to help him just kind of help him learn and retain some info as he's battling the dementia. And one of the people that he actually mentioned in there, it was the host of, I think it was Big Ben, Juju, and Chase Claypool was one the gentleman threw out there. Well, Chase Claypool posted a TikTok video on his Twitter of him watching this video of the dad that had dementia, with him taking a jersey out of the screen, signing it, and then he actually showed himself driving to the post office and sending it to the gentleman. So, and just to be able to see the dad, it posted later on the dad opening it and seeing his face, of seeing that personal touch. A lot of these guys, Antonio Brown at one point when I believe it was his second year, he told anybody that went to training camp if you sent him a personal piece of mail, he would take the time to sign it or send you something personalized to yourself. And a lot of the times these guys have assistants that do a lot of this stuff if they get fan mail and whatnot. It was cool to see the TikTok video of Claypool himself watching a fan video, taking the time out, making sure, hand signing it, walking it to the post office, and getting it. So this guy has impressed me on the field. I'm not going to say I was ahead of the ball game here because I loved him in the draft. I thought maybe he was going to have to be more of a tight end. I wasn't so sure he was going to be able to stick outside. And then when he went to our Pittsburgh Steelers, I'm like, oh, yeah, he's going to be an outside receiver for us. Big Ben's going to love him. But now to see this character off the field and the way he cares for people, it's just he's probably my guy I'm going to get a jersey of next. I just wanted to throw that out there to you. It was a cool story. I love seeing something like that, these guys that relate. And that's why Steeler Nation is so strong, is you have these players that will take the time out and acknowledge something, of just one of the fans that spent so many years, so many dollars supporting them.
Yeah, and I love Chase Claypool too. I think he's a great guy, and I think he comes from humble beginnings up in Canada. And I think I don't want to sell this short. I think that Juju Smith-Schuster being a veteran in his locker room as a rookie, regardless of all the hate people have for Juju doing TikToks and stuff, I believe because Claypool lives above Juju in their apartment building. They're neighbors, and Claypool has a video vlog just like Juju does on YouTube, has his own channel, and has his own merch line, is doing a lot of the same things that brought Juju his stardom. And I mean, I firmly believe Juju's made a lot of money outside of the locker room, outside of the organization in these few years and on his rookie deal. He's established himself online and has done a lot of good in the community alongside of his TikToking and all that. And I think just Chase Claypool is just mirrors that type of guy. You can tell one that they're good friends, being neighbors. I mean, no one's going to live and hang out and do the same things as another guy if they're not good friends. You can just tell that good habits are forming in this guy young. And something about Chase Claypool that I noticed in a game that I never noticed in the measurements and the preseason stuff and watching his highlights after we took him is how big his hands are. Have you noticed that?
They look like a literal catcher's mitt. Like they are. Him messing with Malcolm Butler last week was amazing. By the way, if you've yet to see that, did you when he's sticking his hand? He's sticking his hand like right in his face, and he's like, "No, first down, first down." I'm like, you couldn't even hardly see the dude's like helmet. That's how big his hand was.
It covered from his face mask up past his visor, Malcolm Butler's visor, and all that. I mean, you can tell when he catches an NFL-sized ball, it looks like how college receivers catch a college ball.
Yep.
I mean, his hands, if he puts both his hands on that ball, I'm pretty sure his fingers touch at both ends. I mean, that is for a big guy who you want to catch in traffic along with the deep ball because he has that high 4.4 speed.
Yep.
You want those big hands. I mean, they kind of remind me. I'm not going to compare his game to Randy Moss, but they're Randy Moss-like hands.
Yeah.
Terrell Owens-like hand size. And that stuff for getting up on guys and good DBs coming with that punch. That peanut punch in there trying to knock the ball out. He's not letting go of that thing. And so it's just every time I watch him play, I get caught looking at his hands. I can't help it.
Hey, and you know what? You talked about a good point here with Juju. I'm just going to kind of pivot off this. I know we don't have it on topic. I posted a thing the other week. CBS headquarters did an interview with Juju, and I forget who the anchor was, but he flat out asked him. He's like, "Okay, what's more important, sticking with the Steelers or going for the money?" And Juju's like, Pittsburgh's my team. Ben's my quarterback.
Mhm.
I'm planning on the long haul being here. That's basically, it wasn't word for word, but that's how he came off to the guy. And I know a lot of people I've had conversations with here. They're like, oh, we'll take it for what it's worth. They're midseason. I'm like, no, this dude's different. Like, if you heard every single comment he's had this offseason, last year was a rough year for him without having Ben. And now this year, I really don't think he like, you made a great point. He's a great fixture off the field. He's made a pile of money, whether it's Pizza Hut, a lot of these different things that he's made his off the field money. I really have a feeling he might take, I don't want to say a discount because I hate that word. How are you going to say a discount when the guy's making like 13, 14 million a year? But,
yeah, for real.
But I really think that you're going to see him take a little less money than he could get on the open market just to stick with this Steeler. And I'm not saying it might be long term. I'm saying it might be like a 3-year deal. Somewhere that he thinks that he can still last for the duration with whatever Ben is going to play for and stick with this Claypool, Johnson dynamic, Washington, and go for the rings rather than the production. Because he already has the production. His first 2 years, he's in NFL history for what he was able to do. Whether that's because AB taking double coverage, no matter what, he still had to catch the ball and make the plays.
Exactly.
He is, everything I've heard, and one of the guys that I write for during the draft, Jim Wexel, and he has a great website, 24/7 Sports, Steel City Insider. If you have not checked it out or subscribed, go hit that up. He consistently always talked about how Juju was a leader in that locker room for those young receivers, which is kind of weird because he's just a little bit older than Deontay Johnson, or he might be even a little younger than Deontay Johnson. But that's how young he was coming out. I really think
Joe Burrow is older than Juju right now.
Yeah, that's what I mean. And
that's how young he is.
I really think, Bo, that a lot of people are already writing him off, that he's going to be a free agent. I think after the year, we're going to see him be a priority.
Yeah, I scuff it. I scuff at people saying that. I hate to interrupt you, because, like you said, I believe he should. I think what you can get him for, and what you have in a player, a team first player, a guy who believes blocking is important, and is happy to do it.
Yep.
He's happy to do it. He has yardage and catches and pedigree from his first 2 years in the league, but he is sitting back, getting 3 to 4 catches a game and laying dudes out on crack blocks, and he's fine with it. And I love it.
Yep, it's Steeler football through and through. It's almost appreciative of early career Hines Ward. And it's one of them things where this guy, like Hines Ward, never complained about his catches, but he always had the numbers. He is always, I mean, he's in the conversation to be a Hall of Famer. He's right up there with a lot of the other guys that played in that generation. But what's Hines Ward known for? Winning Super Bowls. And winning Super Bowls. That's exactly it. So I really think Juju's seeing, he's seen the way the AB route went. He's seen the way it exploded. It doesn't pay to be that much of a diva. I see a lot of these other players that go down in lore of Pittsburgh players, and they have rings. Those other guys chase the money. Look at Le'Veon Bell. He's not happy. Look at AB. He kind of went nutso, but he still got paid. What's going to happen? So I think Juju's kind of sitting back, taking it all in. He's great character. I really think I'm hoping that they re-sign him. As much as I hate to see Mike Hilton or Bud Dupree or Villanueva leave, this guy's too young, too good of a talent to see walk out that door. Whenever you can have a receiver room with that kind of dynamic, the Johnson, the Washington, the Claypool, and the him, I'd like to have that for 3-4 years to come. At least, and for him being he's 24, right? I think he's 24.
Yeah.
If he'd sign a 3-year deal, if him and Ben talk and Ben says I might play 3 more years, that might be talking long term here. But who's to say that we win the Super Bowl, we don't ride off in the sunset, a la Jerome Bettis. But he did say the word titles whenever he did come back.
Yeah.
But I really think you're going to see Ben play 3 more years. So if he tells Juju that flat out, hey, give me 3 years, he's still going to be 27, 28 when he hits free agency. He can go get the money bag. That's what I mean.
If Ben wants him there, it won't matter. I mean, look what happened to Ryan Switzer. He got a 3-year job almost.
Yeah, it's true. That's very true. Now he's playing for the Browns, which good luck to you. But
yeah.
So, but
now, I think there's a lot to be said, and there's a lot to be said for playing on a winning team, a team that is winning games and gets broadcast time for your personal brand. And I mean, I don't think it's a bad personality trait for Juju because you need a career after football.
Right.
I think all these guys should prioritize a career after football. But like, if Juju goes to, say, the Chargers, and they have another 5 straight years where they don't win over 6 games, which they won't. Justin Herbert's gonna be great. I was just using that. Say that
Right.
happened to the Chargers, or a team that isn't on the East Coast on TV all the time, or like the Jets, or somebody like that. That's not going to be good for his media presence. It's not going to be good for his personal brand. Staying in Pittsburgh and making less money could turn into a much bigger thing for him in the long run.
Right.
I mean, look at Charlie Batch's post football career.
Absolutely.
And he was a career backup for us, but he wanted to stay. And he made his presence known in the city. Everybody loves him. People to this day worship the ground he walks on, and he hardly started a few games. And Juju is walking that path of, if he just stays and finds his role and is happy in his role, he'll live in Steelers lore forever.
Absolutely. I couldn't have said it better. Well, we kind of got off topic with Claypool, but we got to talk about our boy Juju. So
That's the receiving core.
That's right. That's right. So we're going to go ahead and transition here, folks. We're going to jump into the meat and potatoes. This is a little exercise. I talked last week. This is the sermon portion of it. Last week, we kind of highlighted some players on the trade deadline, which is Tuesday this week, Election Day as well, which if you haven't yet, go vote. We'll throw that little plug in there. It is important this year to go vote. But the trade deadline, we have a little bit of holes to fill. I'll kind of give a quick recap, Bo. I don't know if you got a chance to watch last week's episode. I had some people asking me, well, are we going to go after Sam Darnold? Or are we going to go after Dwayne Haskins? I'm just going to stomp that out right now. No, I'm sorry. Big Ben is our quarterback until he don't want to be our quarterback no more. And we're not going to have another quarterback to replace him. We're not spending any more capital unless it would be maybe a draft pick this year. That would be a 5th-year option as a first-round pick if we get some sort of steal that would fall to us. But we're not taking a guy that's on a rookie deal right now, folks. Just stomping that out right now. No Sam Darnold, no Dwayne Haskins. I threw out some players that were on the Steelers roster. It may be apt to be traded. Jalen Samuels, Ulysses Gilbert III, which you can scratch him off now because he has a back injury. He was added to the injury report this week. He's out. More than likely, I think, you hate seeing those mid-week injury additions because it's never good. It was about the same week last year. He went out in injured reserve with a back injury. And another guy I threw out there was Steven Nelson because of that poor play. So teams from other places that we'd have interest in, 2 of them were already traded since last week's edition. One was B.J. Finney because with the Wisniewski injury, he was traded back to Cincinnati. William Jackson, who we loved throughout the draft process, he's still out there. Sean Williams. Then Keanu Neal, the safety from Atlanta, maybe just a guy you can have as a big linebacker, safety type, a dime package really player on a last year expiring rookie contract. And the last guy I mentioned last week was former Steeler Steve McClendon. Just get him out of that situation. He's already been usurped from there. He's down in Tampa with Tom Brady making a run with them guys. So great pickup by them. I always loved McClendon. Thought he would be a cool rotational piece here to spell some of these guys. So Bo, I'm just going to turn it to you here. I'm going to let you take the first stab at this. We're putting on our GM caps here. Me and you are playing Kevin Colbert. We were talking with Mike Tomlin. I'd love to be Kevin Colbert in the way he's able to construct a roster. Talked to him in person one time. I got a good chuckle out of him because I gave him a business card, and he seen my last name was Countryman, and he's like, ha! He goes, "Can you sing?" I said, "Not, I can't carry a tune in a bucket, sir." But hey, yeah. Oh well. Hey, I'm hoping to get in the football side, not singing. So, but let's go, Bo Colbert. What do we got going on? Who's your target? We're gonna take 2 swings at this. Who's some player that you think you could add to help out with maybe a spot here?
So I believe that at some point we're going to be exposed at inside linebacker a little bit. I love the tenacity and the grit that Robert Spillane is playing with, and I believe he's playing his best football to date in his football career. I believe that. And with Ulysses Gilbert going down, I think that's a huge problem. I don't think you can leave him on the field every snap. And back problems are a slippery slope. They're usually reoccurring. It's a very sensitive spot on the body, especially in a high-impact thing like a middle linebacker. I mean, look what happened to Ryan Shazier. Spinal cord compression is what ended his career. So back problems, I'm sure it's not the same thing as that, but they're normally a reoccurring issue, and I hate to see that with Ulysses Gilbert. I did like his game out of college, but I think the Jets have a lot of guys that you could look at, but I think Avery Williamson would be a good option. He's 28 years old. He's been productive. He's got tons of snaps. We got, I think, around $7 million in cap space on the team, and his cap hit would only be about $4.75 million. And I believe you could get him with a fourth-round pick or something like that. I don't think that he would come with a price tag the Steelers can't meet for good depth and being shored up on their defense at middle linebacker. And I mean, I think the biggest thing is going to be getting a guy who's athletic enough to do the two things that I think are going to stop us from winning big games, and that's cover and man if you get asked to do it on a tight end, and spy Lamar Jackson without having to take a DB out of the game, not out of the game, but out of their normal job to go spy a quarterback. I think Devin Bush was great at it. I'm looking at guys that replace the Devin Bush style of play, the sideline to sideline athlete that you can stick on the best runner, the best running quarterback in the league all game and hound him and not let him get free all night long. So I think Avery Williamson was a good one. It's cheap. We can definitely afford it. He's got tons of experience since he hit the league. He can get around the field. So that's the first one I had.
Yeah, he's very similar to a guy I thought we really underutilized when he was as a Steeler. LJ Fort, you see, he's a starter now for Baltimore at the inside. We had him. And he plays a very similar game to Avery Williams. He's a run and hit linebacker. He does have the coverage ability. LJ Fort got a short end of the stick here. He was always making plays. I always thought they sold him short, but you talked about Ulysses Gilbert going down. We kind of seen what their plan was to replace Devin Bush last week. Spillane played pure rushing downs and short yardage third downs. When it was in third down passing situations that were a little bit longer, they subbed him out for UG3. But at this point, you talked about the back injury. I'm not sure what the extent is, but if it's a similar injury, as bad as it sounds, this might have been the best time for it to happen and show up. Because I am intrigued by Marcus Allen. They really let him transition to a full-time linebacker late in the training camp portion, and he was quite impressive with his coverage ability. So if you watch his tape when he was at Penn State, he is a downhill thumper. He has a lot of athleticism as a safety, and he has really good size. So this is a great time to get that cameo appearance, and we got a 1-week tryout. Marcus Allen, if you can make the plays this weekend, because you're going to get more snaps this weekend with UG3 being out, if he's able to show that he can fill that role, I don't think we're going to go out and make a trade. I really think that they're going to give him a chance to take on that role. But if he shows up and get exposed in that spying ability and maybe in the rotation there on a third down dime package, I really think we're going to go out and get somebody. Avery Williams is a great guy that you said, and you talked about maybe flipping a fit to be that expensive, but you never know if there's a continual amount of people that would maybe need a different amount of players. But we have an extra fourth we're going to probably get for the comp, a 6th-round pick, maybe a 5th, maybe we flip a 5th, whatever it would take, but that would be a great veteran presence to add in that linebacker room. And even if you don't usurp Spillane full-time, he's going to be that quality guy to come in on pure coverage downs and spell if Spillane's shoulder keeps bothering him or whatnot. You definitely got to throw some depth there at the linebacker position. If it's not going to come through trade, maybe it's one of these guys that you see that's a veteran on a losing team that they wind up releasing to get a look at a younger guy later on in the year. You can sign him to the practice squad and promote him. But that's a great pick, Bo. We kind of talked about the one. I'm Kevin Colbert. I'm getting bold here in late career Big Ben territory. We went last year when Ben was out. We got Minka. This year, I'm getting real crazy. I'm calling up my old nemesis, Bill Belichick, and saying, hey, I heard Stephon Gilmore's house is on the market. He was Defensive Player of the Year last year. Can you send him to Pittsburgh for us? And I'm gonna take on Stephon Gilmore. I know that it might take a little bit of cap maneuvering for price wise, but he's also signed next year as well. So he's 30 years old. They moved some money around to pay him more this year. They were shopping him a little bit last year in the off season, and I'm going I'm going to get him. And Stephon Gilmore even made the comment. There's a report out there that with his house going up in Foxborough, he wants all offers for his home to be made no later than November 3rd. So he might be read into a plan that maybe some of the rest of us haven't been. And if Stephon Gilmore's out there on the market, I ain't giving Baltimore, I ain't giving Kansas City, I ain't giving any other contender a chance to go out and get him. I'm taking Stephon Gilmore. I'm trading a second-round pick if need be, if that's what it takes. It will not be a first-round pick. I'll make you aware of that now. Not with 1 year left. But for me, I'm thinking, why not flip a Steven Nelson, who has another year left on his deal, and a third. If it's not a third, maybe we give up a second. We try to equate some of that cap loss here. And we get the reigning defensive player of the year to be our legit number one cornerback. You let Hayden slide in as that number 2, high-quality number 2, and you have Hilton and Sutton as your number 3s. So, Bo, what do you think? Stephon Gilmore playing cornerback for our Pittsburgh Steelers. What do you think? Can we get Kevin Colbert to go bold and go to infinity and beyond?
I would love it. I worry that it might be too bold after the trade we did. We got rid of our first-round pick for Devin Bush, and we got rid of a first-round pick for Minka Fitzpatrick. I don't know if that's something that he would put up, but I would love it. I believe we need it. Like we said, we're seeing a regression at the position on our defense right now. And although I do love Mike Hilton and Cam Sutton, I do believe that if you place the workload on them as the number 1 cornerback or the number 2, that we would see an exposure. We would see weak points in their game that maybe we're not seeing with limited snaps and them being used in situational football when they're used to their strengths. I just think guys like Cam Sutton and Mike Hilton, especially at first, would get put on their heels a little bit on the outside. So bringing in, safety nets, I don't even know if the right word. He's a game changer. Bringing in a guy like that would be huge. It wouldn't, whatever they decide to give up, if we landed him, I don't think I'd be mad at all, no matter what they chose to give up. Even if it was the first, I'd be like, we're all in for the Super Bowl. Screw it.
Exactly.
If you get Stephon Gilmore, I believe that's what this team is seeing. They're seeing blood in the water. They're seeing that if we beat Baltimore, or staring down the barrel of like a 10-0 start with Dallas and Cincinnati coming, and then at that point you got to put all your eggs in your basket while Ben's at this point in his career.
That's what I was thinking, man. Like, you're playing at this point with our record. If we can beat Baltimore, you see cornerback play is somewhat short at this point. Now you're looking at matching up with your playoff contenders. Okay, we already showed to the point we can match up with Tennessee. Mm-hmm. Are we going to be able to run with Kansas City, who we know is most likely, even though they're not undefeated, the number 1 team in the AFC? With their weapons and Tyreek Hill and now Le'Veon Bell and Clyde Edwards-Helaire, McCole Hardman, Sammy Watkins, do we have the secondary to keep up with them guys? I don't think so.
No.
You inject a Gilmore and say they don't want Nelson. Okay, now we have a 5 to 6 cornerback depth chart of Lane, Hilton, Sutton, Nelson, Hayden, and Gilmore. Figure it out. You know what I mean?
Luck.
Like we'll make do. We'll give up our linebacker core to have 7 DBs on the field whenever we play at Kansas City. But we also have we would almost be able to match the versatility of our offense with the secondary pieces that we have on defense. So that's why I really think 30-year-old, I know he's going to want a new contract. I know we have a lot of other guys that are up, and this offseason we're going to be making a lot of tough decisions with players that we love. We're probably not going to be able to re-sign all of them. Why not make it one last ride, go for it all, and win that 7th Super Bowl? So Stephon Gilmore I'd love to have outside. Just that type of addition. It would almost be the same statement they made last year, that we're still contenders even though Ben's hurt with the Minka addition.
Oh, yeah.
You bring Stephon Gilmore to Pittsburgh, we're going to be like, oh, dang, man. Like, okay. Like, we're not just worried about – we're just not worried about – we're not worried about winning the division. We're going for Super Bowl. And then if you're talking real big scheme, Tampa Bay is loaded on offense. If they wind up walking through the NFC – now we have the pieces to be able to contend with that type of an offense in the Super Bowl. Be able to match up one-on-one, whether it's AB, Chris Godwin, Mike Evans. Stephon Gilmore and Mike Evans, that's must-see TV. Super Bowls like that with Tom Brady versus Big Ben, and I'm telling you, Stephon Gilmore, Kevin Colbert, I hope you're listening to this. Go make the trade. I would be loving to see that in Pittsburgh. So that's all I'm going to say. I'm not going to keep pleading for this to happen because I'm trying to speak it into existence, Bo. I've been saying it.
I think that. I think you probably feel the same way as me. Is that when it comes to teams like Tampa Bay and Kansas City, who are a clear paths you're going to have to go through to get anywhere in this league this year, I think the biggest liability is going to be is going to be the secondary. Is going to be Nelson and Hayden checking these elite fast receivers that not anybody in the league. I worry about them getting away from those guys, and then I think Minka hasn't been horrible this year, but he's been stuck in some bad positions by bad cornerback play.
Well,
bad cornerback he's been hung out to dry.
Right, he's a bad cornerback play, and our defensive play calm. Like we've been pinning our ears back. We have been doing him no favors. Like he's basically been having to make the decision.
It's almost like cover zero.
Right, like
man back.
What am I supposed to do? I got a guy that's running a post pattern and a 9. Which one am I going after? Okay,
yeah.
Who
do I decide?
Who is the most separation? And I guess that's the one I'm going to. Like, and then usually that's the number 2 outlet's been getting checked down to. So, all right, Bo, I shot my shot the first time. Let's hear your second opinion here.
So I don't mean to sound repetitive, but I'm sticking with linebacker. I think that is the position where we are the most fragile today. At this very moment, the fragility. I believe corners are a problem. I believe they are, but our corners aren't hurt. Justin Lane isn't starting right now. Right now, we have Justin Lane equivalent in Robert Spillane out there as a linebacker at the moment. So I believe the problem's a little different. And I had a guy, I've always loved his game, Deion Jones from Atlanta. There's no way he can be happy down there. I know he's been injured a good amount, but he's also still produced. And I believe that his body type, his game, is a lot like is probably more similar to Devin Bush than Avery Williamson. He can get all over the field. He's got the speed. He's got the pedigree coming out of LSU. He's cheap deal once again. I don't know what kind of money he's looking for after his deal's done, though. I mean, he's only at like $5.6 million a year right now. But couldn't you see? I mean, Deion Jones is a guy. He's never had back end help in Atlanta. He'll have back end help here. He's going to be able to focus on his role. And I mean, I believe he's a guy that could spy Lamar. We're going to have to stop Lamar at least once in one of these games and win if we want to win our division. If Baltimore sweeps us this year, I don't think we win our division. And we're going to have a guy who's not let him get outside. I know I preached that with Avery Williamson, but I hate to seem like I'm only thinking about 2 games in this season, because I'm not. I mean, Josh Allen can run the ball too later on in the year, and you're going to have to beat him.
Joe Burrow
Joe Burrow can run. Gardner Minshew can get outside on you and cause problems. About the only quarterback left that we have to play that can't get out and cause problems is DiNucci from Dallas and Phillip Rivers. The rest of them can extend a play if they have to. And so I think that is where we're going to struggle, is with inside linebacker and athleticism going forward without Devin Bush. So Deion Jones wouldn't be a big ask. I don't think you wouldn't have to get a ton. You wouldn't have to give up a ton to get him. I don't see how anyone could be happy playing defense on the Atlanta Falcons right now. And I think coverage is his strongest suit. So he just got an interception like last week.
Yeah, Deion Jones. I'm telling you, that's when I'm reading the script, I'm like, ooh. I'm like, I didn't think about him. I know Atlanta. They fired their GM already. They fired their coach.
They're unloading. They're going to rebuild soon.
Well, they're posturing at this point because they're saying, "Oh, we're not trading a lot of our veterans," which I think that was more pointed to we're not getting rid of Matt Ryan or we're not getting rid of Julio. Outside of that, we're open for business. So Deion Jones, that's a game changer at the inside linebacker. You make a great point. He is a great coverage backer, but his ability to get sideline and sideline, he's a very short tackler. Great complementary style to Vince Williams. That's a really good pickup. I think you might have to give up a 3rd or 4th for him at this point because I think he has one more year to his thing. I'm not positive for that one, but Deion Jones, I always have been a fan of his game in Atlanta. It seems like they're going to be, gutting house. They might be transitioning on defense. They're not sure. They're going to want as much cap space as they can because they're going to be building on offense with Calvin Ridley and Julio and still Matt Ryan. That next coaching staff is going to want it. So Maybe they try to unload and get as much cap space as possible. But I would be very intrigued. Maybe we can go out and get both these guys, Bo. We get Deion Jones for linebacker and Gilmore, but that'd be.
We wouldn't be picking many picks next year.
No,
but I'd like it.
I don't care as long as we're hoisting the Lombardi. But
yes, sir.
Yeah, if we trade both of our comp picks or maybe something like that, we give up our third and a sixth or third and a fourth. I'll be happy. Let's make it happen. I'll wait the second day of the draft. Exactly, especially when you got a Hall of Fame type quarterback here now that only has a few years left. We go full bore here. That's what we like to see. I like your pick there, Deion Jones. Definitely like that pick. I'm going to go ahead and throw my second guy out there because it's I'm kind of trying to look through your glasses here, your rose-colored glasses at linebacker. I'm going for a guy that's a division rival. He played a lot of big games against us, and there was talk this offseason they were going to transition him more to a linebacker role. He's played that role quite a bit in dime packages for him. Sean Williams from the Bengals. He's on his last year of his contract, and he's already voiced his displeasure with how he's being utilized, kind of like Carlos Dunlap, kind of like Geno Atkins. He's a big-time enforcer. He's got good straight line speed. He doesn't have the fluidity of a Deion Jones or even an Avery Williamson, but that's more of a guy I'm looking to cast in that dime role that he can cover cover tight end, match up with running backs. He's a very short tackler, and he's got some thump a la Vince Williams that'll separate guys from the ball. He doesn't have a lot of salary remaining. I think if we're really looking for a cheap addition, it costs a lot less than an Avery Williamson or a Deion Jones. I really think you could probably get him for a conditional 7th round pick because just wanting to get rid of the salary, get something in return, kind of like the Carlos Dunlap trade. He's only playing 9.6% of their snaps in total right now. So he's a guy that I've always kind of loved his game, especially coming out from Georgia. He was a very good communicator, big time hitter, and he was kind of underrated in the pass defense. Everybody kind of knocked him on that, but if you're playing him, asking him to play like the pseudo linebacker safety role, he's that third safety that you bring on the field in dime packages. I think he'd have a lot of value to this defense.
I agree, and I believe that's the kind of help we need. I think we got guys that can cover. I think we need somebody who's going to be that extra man to either step down on a tight end or step up in spies or run games when the linebackers are rotating. I believe Sean Williams is a good guy for that. And like you said, with his communication, he's great with that. And as you know, our defense requires lots of communication. Yeah. It is there's a lot of calls to be made. It's a very complicated scheme. We run a lot of different packages, sub-packages, all kinds of stuff. And you need a guy who is good with his teammates on the field. I believe miscommunication was the most used excuse for our errors on defense before last year. Before last year, all you heard was we're not communicating enough. We're not getting the right plays on the field. We're not all on the same page. And I think that is something in the NFL, probably more or less when there's fans. I'm sure it's pretty easy to talk right now. But that communication and thorough understanding across the entire secondary is a huge thing. Everybody needs to know where everybody else is going to be, and I think Sean Williams would fit that really well. And I'm not discouraged by his 9.6% of snaps.
No, I ain't either.
For some reason, that doesn't really bother me. Cincinnati, I don't really know what they're up to on defense. I don't think that they have much of a plan anyway on defense.
No.
So I believe that the snap thing doesn't really bother me. The money is great that you could pay him right now. So I think that's a great pick. I think he would fit our scheme pretty darn well.
And he's familiar with a lot of our similar battle-type tested people. I mean, he knows what Lamar Jackson, it's not going to be an adjustment period for what he's seeing. He's played him 2 times a year now for quite a few many seasons. Like, he's going to already have the understanding stepping in day one on this defense that, in my role as the third safety, I'm going to spy him on third downs. And his ability to close downfield, I think that would just be a high quality. If you're not able to get a linebacker like the 2 guys you threw out, maybe you go get him to be that pseudo linebacker, and he's not going to complain about his role. He's going to be happy to go from the Cincinnati Bengals, sorry Jacob, to the undefeated team, best team in the AFC North this year.
He's not a guy we're going to have to worry about whiffing on tackles like we've seen in the past. He's a guy we can lay on the field, and you're not going to be waiting for Sean Williams to mess up, I think.
Right, definitely. Well, hey, I think we did a good job. I think we should be hired by a front office, Bo. I think we're
tell
there.
him to call me.
Come on, Kevin Colbert. Bo McCauley, Roy Countryman. We'll do some stuff for you. Pro scouting.
I'll
whatever.
do it for cheap.
Yep.
I'll do it for cheap too.
Hey.
You can go $50K a year. I'll work for you.
Hey,
who cares?
you give me $50K, you give me just a free lunch card, I'll be happy as long as you pay my bills.
Yeah.
But for
It'll be on your website under coach or scout or something.
yeah, that's all I need. I don't need much, but it'd be cool just to be rocking the gear. So, but hey, we're doing this for right now. It ain't no problem doing some media scouting. As if I haven't said yet, Bo is working with the scouting report with Jacob Patterson. He's a great talent. Both of them guys know their football. They do a lot of great work there. Check out their TSR podcasts on all platforms. They're outstanding work. Bo's going to be doing some scouting for us this year at Blitzalytics.com. Also, Jacob's still scouting for Blitzalytics.com as well, in addition to the scouting report website that he has and a lot of his podcasting stuff. You want to make sure you're following them, guys. But, Bo, we're going to wrap this episode up. We're going to jump into our Week 8 preview here with the division rival Baltimore Ravens. We're going to M&T Bank here at 1 o'clock tomorrow on Sunday the 1st. I'm gonna run down through here quick the injury report that we had, the final injury report, and then we're gonna go ahead. I always kind of do 3's the number for me. I don't know why, but we go 3 stories, 3 matchups, and then the 3 keys to victory. So injury report. Our Steelers, Bo, we got a few injuries to take note of. Mike Hilton still with that shoulder injury. He's questionable. At this point, it's not looking good that he's going to return to the field. They were hopeful that he was going to, but more than likely, from what I'm hearing, is it's going to be Cam Sutton will be the starter at nickel. They'll probably give him another week in the big picture just to make sure he's healthy. I know I hate not having him, especially off the edge. With Jackson, I could be surprised.
Things must have taken a turn for Mike Hilton late in the week.
Because
I think, didn't Jerry Dulac say he was going to play on like Tuesday or something?
He did. I believe he played. He was all limited practice this week. I could go back and double check, but I was checking early this morning. I had a couple different people I always check to see with injury reports and the way they're feeling, and they said more than likely they're going to hold him out. It's probably going to be a game time decision. So I think they're going to err on the side of caution, go with the big picture, even though this is a key matchup for our seeding this year. I think Cam Sutton played well, but Mike Hilton is questionable. It's more likely going to be a game-time decision. So he may play. It may be a limited amount of snaps, but more likely I think we're not going to see him. Derek Watt as well, hamstring injury. It's been ailing him on and off this season. When he's been on the field, he's been a monster as a fullback and also on special teams. He's questionable. Also not hearing that well that we're going to be seeing him this week in the game, which we could have used him in this kind of a physical matchup. So our boy Henry, Mondo Man, as I like to call him, because my wife's like, what are you saying? I'm like, like Macho Man, Henry Mondo Man. Henry Mondo might get some ISO blocks here in red zone attempts. I know me and you are both a fan of him. But he's questionable. Then we have 3 guys that are listed as out. Jordan Dangerfield, key special teams. I believe captain is out with a quad injury. Chris Wormley, rotational defensive lineman who hasn't seen a ton of snaps, out with a knee injury. I wouldn't be surprised they see him placed on IR if this is a multi-week injury before game time. We might see a guy like Carlos Davis elevated from the practice squad, get a chance there. Just if it's more than a 2-week injury, it's just better served to be on IR. And Ulysses Gilbert, who wasn't listed initially this week, wound up coming down with the back injury, as we both were talking, very similar to last year. I believe almost the same week to the day that he injured his back in practice and wound up having to be put on IR. We hope that he's not out for a long-term injury, but he is also out. The Baltimore Ravens, 1 player is listed as doubtful, more than likely completely out. Mark Ingram II with an ankle injury, which is a big blow, but they have J.K. Dobbins and Gus the Bus Edwards. Then 2 other players that are questionable that are more likely trending towards playing. Anthony Levine, who's been a key blitzing and short yardage defender, almost in a pseudo linebacker role with an abdominal, and Jimmy Smith with an Achilles injury is also questionable, but also more than likely to play. I don't think it's a game time decision. I think he's trending in the right direction. So that's our injury facet as it is, Bo. Going for the three stories. I'm just going to throw this one out there. The first one is, can the Pittsburgh Steelers beat their rivals to go 7-0? What's your thoughts, bud?
I think they're capable. I really do. I think that it's going to be about keeping the ball off the turf. We cannot turn the ball over to the Ravens. If we give up 3 interceptions or 3 fumbles for that matter, or just any combination of 3 plus turnovers this game, they will not come away with a win. I have picked the Steelers to win the game. And that is probably because I'm a bit of a homer, as we're on this podcast.
Well, sure.
But but I believe that our team is complete. We play a 3-phase game of football. Our special teams is playing better than it has in years. Where Ray McLeod has given us a huge boost. We're winning the field position battle. We're winning the clock battle this year. We're doing a lot of things better than we have in years past. And Lamar barely beat us last year with no Big Ben. And the thing we did was we didn't turn it over to him a whole lot. I think towards the end we did turn it over, but the reason we were in that game in the long run was low turnovers, not letting them get free chances at points. So that's a big thing for me. If you give the Ravens defense is all about pressure on the quarterback and turning the football over. That is what they're built on. And that if we cannot do that, if Ben can play his conservative game manager style, I see us winning. I really do. If one interception doesn't scare me, honestly, maybe 2 interceptions, as long as we're not fumbling the ball, doesn't scare me too much. But if Big Ben gets back to playing the quick release game, people call it dink and duck, but I think it's just calculated risk. The short passing game, supplementing for the run, so that we're not getting killed by their front seven is really talented.
Mm-hmm.
So, like I said, keep the turnovers down, win the clock, and I think the Steelers can win this game. I have them winning.
All right. Well, Bo, just a little bit of history here. If they push their record to 7-0 against these Ravens, league history gets even more interesting. 38 teams who have started their season winning the first seven games have made it to the playoffs 100% of the time. So we're there, baby. We're going to the playoffs. This whole team, I'm telling you, I have a very similar type outlook to you as this game is going to be affected. You already know that there's going to be a turnover. These defenses are just too good not to come up with a turnover or two. You just hope you're on the right side of the field when it happens. You can't be, a long kickoff. Ray McLeod is going to have a very key point in this game. He's not only going to be picking up chunk yardage, but protecting the ball, as you said. They are one of the best on special teams, with Harbaugh being a former special teams coach, at causing turnovers on special teams. So that's a key facet I'm glad you highlighted in that presentation, that this game you're going to have turnovers. It's just these guys know too well what they're going to be playing, the players and the playmakers for each side. To me, I'm really intrigued by the receiver group and the way they're going to be matching up for him. We can list it off. Jimmy Smith, big physical cornerback. Chase Claypool is a big physical wide receiver. More likely you're going to see him shadowing him. Then you have Juju. Juju most of the time plays in the slot. Where's Marlon Humphrey play a lot? A slot. If not, he might slide outside. Who's their best corner, in my opinion, is Humphrey. He's probably going to be shadowing Juju. So then you have Marcus Peters, who is the gambler. He's Kenny Rogers right now. He is the gambler. Yeah. That's the way he lives and dies by. He's been one of the biggest playmakers on defense because he gambles, but he can get burnt. So he's a physical type press corner. James Washington, when he's on the field, that might be a good matchup for Peters. But you put Deontay Johnson on Marcus Peters, I'm sorry, we're going to be smoking Marcus Peters with Deontay Johnson. He can't stick with him laterally. If he goes vertically, he might be able to carry him and get physical with him off the line of scrimmage. But if we're playing that quick release, get the ball in his hands, Deontay Johnson's going to have a big game in this game. So that's where I'm looking really at right here. It's going to be an interesting matchup. The first I wanted to get through is that 7-0. Are we going to get 7-0? We have a lot of different key things to look for. Second storyline to kind of throw out there, will the Steelers be able to stop this Ravens' vaunted rushing attack? Bo, do you have any thoughts?
I think if any team in the NFL is going to do it, the Steelers are perfect for stopping it. I believe that our defense, as long as we can control their leading rusher, Lamar Jackson, I'm not afraid of J.K. Dobbins with this offensive line they have right now. Their offensive line is is pretty good, but it is not elite. Marshall Yonda is missed in that line, I do believe.
Oh yeah.
And I believe it's gonna come down to the interior. It's not. I mean, T.J. Watt and Bud need to get home. I mean, they need to. But I believe that Alualu, Tuitt, and Hayward need to run this game personally, and I believe they need to control running. They need to control that because whoever wins the clock is likely going to win this game. And whoever has the ball longer, I don't see how the other team keeps up with it. So I believe that I think we're gonna stop them on the J.K. Dobbins end. I don't see their running back having a big day. I want to see how we handle Lamar Jackson getting out and creating plays, because he is their leading rusher, and a lot of it is not designed runs. It's him taking off on his own with his athleticism. Is one of probably the best we've ever seen do it. At doing what he does. So that's what it's going to all be about. I think we can stop their rushing attack, the designed rushing plays. I'm fine with that. There's no one better in the league at it than this Steelers defense, but letting Lamar Jackson get outside and not having a man checking him, sitting around a few yards off the line of scrimmage ready to make a move on him, then we're going to have a lot of problems. If we can't nail that down, I think it's just going to open up a world of hurt.
Yeah, and just to throw some stats out there at everybody listening, the Ravens lead the NFL in rush yards per game. That's the way their offense is built. They average 164.3 yards a game, but that's rock meeting, paper here, as the Steelers' run defense is second in the NFL at only allowing 68.8 yards a game, which just rose just ever so slightly because of the 75 yards they gave up to Derrick Henry last week. And one of the friends of the show, Alex Kazora, who's great with stats at Steelers Depot, just some yardage and some numbers for you guys to throw out there at you. Opposing offenses are only averaging just 1.9 yards per carry when Alu is on the field. Another thing just to highlight Alu, he was part of that 2010 draft class, which everybody talks about, Gerald McCoy and Ndamukong Suh. But he's actually played the second most games in that draft class behind Suh. Suh has 165. He has 163. There's a lot of quality players there. So, Bo, you talked about before, he was an underrated player at Jacksonville, kind of miscast in that 4-3 front. He's really playing well in this 3-4 front. We kind of extended his playing career somewhat, almost like a Kimo von Oelhoffen when we got him from Cincinnati. Late career, he played a lot of quality seasons, like 3 or 4 for us after he came from there. I think he's really the key piece in this deal. It's because of how quick he can get off the ball. You said Marshall Yonda. That is the buzzword right now. This offense is not the same without Marshall Yonda. When Marshall Yonda was at guard, I feared the Baltimore Ravens a lot more because of his ability to short trap and control defensive linemen. I'm not scared of Tyree Phillips. I'm not scared of a lot of these other guys they have inside, especially with his ability to mask some of the deficiencies of the center and his ability to get to the second level. He was able to make up for that Matt Skura, who was coming off a knee injury and is playing good ball, but these guys inside, the penetrating style that Alu has showed in the first 7 weeks, I think is really, that's a mismatch inside. Is Alu's high-quality play against those interior three. Hayward and Tuitt, are playing all-pro level plays right now, whether it's pass rushing or running the ball. They're controlling the line of scrimmage. Alu is the guy I think is going to be the difference maker in this whole matchup with Jackson. We're going to have to tackle him out in the exterior, but when it comes to Gus the Bus and Dobbins, I don't think they stand a chance as long as these guys.
Worried.
Nope. Lamar Jackson has to be brought down. We got to, be short tackling in space, which Vince Williams, Dupree's one of the best run crashers. And we saw last week as the edge rushers, they were unconcerned with ISO blocking either Dupree or Watt. They made a lot of plays in the backfield. When they get a one-on-one opportunity with Jackson, they got to bring him down, because if not, that's going to be where he makes his money. You make great points here. Last storyline, Bo. Will the Steelers play a complete game, 4 quarters? Or are we going to let the foot off the gas pedal as we did with the Titans? We only scored 3 points in the second half last week. Do you have any thoughts on that? Are we going to play all 4 quarters? I don't think we got to worry about that in this divisional rivalry here.
Yeah, so I actually wrote about that in my power rankings reflection this past week for Still Curtain, is that we have not seen, this is a great story you brought in here, probably the best of the 3, is are we going to see 4 quarters from this football team? We have not yet. but like you said, this is not a normal game. This isn't the Browns game. This is way different. I think when the Steelers walked into that Browns game, they knew they were going to win that game.
Yeah.
I don't think a single player on our team doubted winning that Browns game. I just don't. I don't think the whole state of Ohio is something that the Steelers worry about. I don't see that. I want to say that this is a different game, and that they're going to play the whole time. They're going to play to the best of their ability the whole time. What I just don't want, I can't say that, I don't want Ben Roethlisberger to feel frustrated and try and revert back to old Ben.
Right.
Ben that puts it in harm's way, because this defense is made to frustrate you. Them adding Yannick Ngakoue, they brought him in there to frustrate quarterbacks, to help their turnover creating secondary be better. So Big Ben is going to have to stick to the guns that they have given him this year. Use Matt Canada's motion style to get your pre-snap reads right. Don't worry about if you're using short passing to supplement the run. Don't force it into triple coverage. I don't know how often I have to say that, but late second half picks are going to kill us.
Yep.
If Big Ben starts throwing it around like that. So, I'm going to say we will see a 4-quarter game, because I think nothing less than 4 quarters wins this game.
Yeah, absolutely. If you're a Steeler fan and you watch these games, it usually always comes down to 3 points. 3 points in this game is always usually fourth quarter, and it always seems like these matchups are good for fourth quarter. It's must-see TV for all 4 quarters. And I really think this is going to be the complete storybook being written. You're going to see the entirety of what the Steelers can put together this game. This is the litmus test. We were even talking about it on Happy Hour this past week with Jack. He's saying, he made the comment on his Blitz breakdown that he still couldn't put the Steelers over the Chiefs in his power rankings, even though that they're undefeated. This is the litmus test where a lot of guys that are saying, the Chiefs, even though they had that letdown against the Raiders, the Steelers are going to have a letdown against the Ravens, and especially in Baltimore. If you're able to make that statement that we are here, we're going to play all 4 quarters, we're going to show you who's the more dominant team, because Lamar Jackson has not been playing up to the level of his MVP season. A lot of it has to do with his offensive line. As a passer, as a rusher, he's still there. But as a passer, I think with our dominant front 7 and the way to get pressure, we are going to hit him often, and I think we're going to get him rattled because he does not have the weaponry. They went out and made a great addition, which they were able to, secure. As we're talking with the little bit of weakness on the Steelers' defensive side of the ball, the secondary, not so much safety-wise, but cornerback play, they were a little unsure. They didn't really have a pass rusher outside of Calais Campbell. So they went out. Matt Judon's a good number 2 or 3 option as a pass rusher. They went out and got Yannick, who's a great pass rusher. Great addition. But you also have a very, very big need as a pass catcher in this offense. Mark Andrews is their biggest weapon. We have Terrell Edmonds, who's the eraser. You talked about him earlier. Marquise Brown, I'm not really that concerned with. I know he has speed, but we're able to take bracket coverage with him if Terrell Edmonds is allowed to play one-on-one coverage and man with Andrews. I don't fear anybody else outside of them too. So if we're able to contain Lamar Jackson, I don't think this is going to be close as what people think. I have a great feeling about the Steelers. I think they're coming out with a mission. They said something similar last week when they said about taking the ball early. They wanted to make a statement, as they were hearing a lot of media were saying, well, we don't score touchdowns early. We don't get the ball first. We usually defer. I think they're going to come out on a mission and say, we are the best team in the NFL. We're going to get that 7-0. And if we have a letdown maybe at home against Baltimore, it is what it is. But we've already made our statement and our case that this is our season. This is where we're going, and this is what we can do when we put 60 minutes out in the field. So I think it's going to be an interesting dynamic. It's always great to be rivalry week. It stings if we do lose to Baltimore, but more than anything, it's going to be a great fought game. I'm not going to think any less of our Steelers if they do lose. It'd be one thing if we lose to the Jets or we lose to the Patriots or something
Dallas.
like that, Dallas. But if we lose to the Baltimore Ravens, they're a well-coached team. It's a well-coached. Even I'd be more concerned if we lost to the Browns. Baltimore, is always a slugfest. It's 2 quality teams. It's playoff caliber teams. It's just a good litmus test. So 3 matchups to watch, Bo. We're going to transition to there. I'm going to let you kick it off. Do you have any one or two or three, or maybe you want to throw out all three of yours, and I'll throw a couple of mine out here.
Yeah, I mean, I can run through my three pretty quick. So I put Calais Campbell on Chooks and Okorafor. Big Ben saw a lot of balls batted down last week. I'm not exactly sure if it was just the way he's thrown it, or if it was Jeffrey Simmons and that front for Tennessee getting their hands up. But Calais Campbell's probably the best guy at batting down balls in this league right now, other than J.J. Watt plays a game where he looks like he's in his prime again. Calais Campbell is known for that, on top of his intensity that we all are well aware of. So I'd like to see Chooks be aggressive with him. If he's jumping up and down the whole game, I'd like to see Chooks hit him in the stomach. Just hit him, punch him a few good times. I mean, let him know that you're there and you're not going to bat passes all day on me.
Yep.
Do something pay for jumping up and swatting. Not that Calais has to jump too high to swat balls because he's 6'7", and he has the longest arms in the NFL. But you need to do something to help bring him down and make him pay for doing that. I mean, it might not phase Calais Campbell, but we cannot have three balls get tipped up in the air again this week for 50-50 plays. I think those are easy interceptions. I mean, if there's guys within a few yards of it, and this line with Derek Wolfe and him, there's not two guys that are better at it. When you put them together, it's swatting the ball down. And so I'd like to see Chooks make Calais try and pay for that a few times if he can. I mean, this is a huge game for Chooks, I believe.
You know what I think's going to happen, Bo? Just to kind of keep him tamed down from his batting passes. I think in the first drive in the scripted plays, you're going to see them make a concerted effort to throw the ball down the field. To say, okay, you studied all week on our, you even talked about Ben was one of the top 2 or 3 at release times. It was under 2.5 seconds, 2.3, I even think.
I think he's number 1.
Yeah, I think he is number 1. It was like 2.3 seconds to release point.
That's it.
And that's ridiculous. But I think you're going to see them make the case of, you studied last week's tape. Well, we're going to attack you down the field with our big targets. I think you're going to see some deep shots taken early, and I think that's the way they're going to combat it, just to kind of let them know that you're not going to be batting passes down this week. We're not going to be concerned with that.
Yeah, and then I had Deontay Johnson versus really against whatever corner they put over there. Because, I mean, honestly, it could be Peters, it could be Humphrey. Could be Jimmy Smith at times. I mean, I believe if Deontay Johnson starts going off, they're gonna find one of them who's doing better with him throughout the game. So I have Marlon Humphrey here, but I mean, really, just whoever Deontay Johnson goes up against, I think you touched on that. He's a big key to this game. He's going to be tough for them to cover. Like you said, no one is as good as him laterally getting open. His separation, I think yards per separation, like on whatever routes run, whatever that stat is. I mean, I think last year he was number 1 in the league getting separation, with his routes. So he's going to be big. I have Deontay Johnson versus Marlon Humphrey or whoever's covering him, and then the head-to-head QB matchup is my third one. Big Ben and Lamar have never faced each other. This will be the first one. Last time Ben played the Ravens, he won, and Lamar I don't think has lost to the Steelers yet. So I think we're looking at a classic Steelers-Ravens matchup, and it starts with them too.
Absolutely. You made a couple great ones here. I'm just going to throw a couple out maybe to defer. We have the interior you were talking about. Marquise Pouncey needs a big game. That's a guy I'm going to put on notice. Marquise Pouncey, they have Brandon Williams inside there. Big-time nose tackle. If we have any chance of getting a running game going, whether it's Snell or Connors, I'm not saying we need 100 yards, but Marquise Pouncey, not only with his run blocking, with a nose tackle right on top of him, but we're going to need his communication skills because they like getting exotic in their pass rushing and blitzing. They are I believe Baltimore's is either the first or second. They're right up there with us with 0 blitz. So they're going to have to be able to communicate and get the free blitzers picked up. Marquise Pouncey, it's a big week for you, buddy. Terrell Edmonds, you talked about. I think it's a key week for him on Mark Andrews. He's one of the tight ends in the league that's been up there with Travis Kelce and Kittle with touchdown passes in the last 2 years. It's going to be a great big week for Terrell Edmonds to show off his playmaking ability. I'm not saying he's going to come up with interceptions, but you're going to have to come down with some passes defense and play that one-on-one coverage. It's just a key matchup in a lot of other facets as well. Another guy I want to throw out there, and he's kind of a forgotten man on this offense, but Vance McDonald. I think Vance McDonald and his ability to the short trap game and get out in front with David DeCastro and Filer, because it's with Filer switching over to left guard, it's gave them the ability not to be one-sided in pulling. They're able to go both directions now, left and right. I really like McDonald's ability to get out in front, and he's going to be a key facet on lead blocking since Derek Watt's been out this week. So if we have a chance to get in the goal line situations, Vance McDonald's going to be a guy to watch with his blocking because he's been very selfless this year. He's very well and improved in his run blocking power, not only with being able to get engaged, but don't be surprised you see him catch a option pass or somewhat in the goal line, sneaking out after blocking somebody. So Vance McDonald on the tight ends or getting out there second level in the linebacking core with Patrick Queen playing high-quality ball as a rookie. I think he's a guy that not many people are talking about that you're going to have to get some good play out of him. I know Eric Ebron gets all the stats for catching, but he's a guy you got to definitely keep an eye on. So 3 things, Bo. What do we got to do? 3 things the Steelers must do to get that W this week.
Well, one, I've harped on a lot, but you can't let Lamar get loose. If we let him lead the game in rushing, and we're going to have a big problem. I think we're really hurt by Devin Bush. I think the Ravens know that, and I think the Ravens are going to attempt to exploit that. So it's don't let Lamar get loose is my number 1 right now. That's where he's the best. Number 2 is play with the lead. We need to score early, and we need to make some defensive stops, and we need to force Lamar to get the ball in the air because that's where we're going to succeed the most. I believe the Ravens have like the second lowest passing totals on the year for their offense. Like you said, the matchups across their receiving core doesn't really scare me too much. So I'd like for us to get up early, play with the lead, and pin our ears back and frustrate Lamar. That would be best. And then control the clock. I'd like to see some long drives. I'd like to see Connor control the game. I believe we have the front line to do that on offense. And like you said, with guys like Vance McDonald, we're gonna need him to have a big game, control that line of scrimmage. Because I think if the Steelers can get up early and win time of possession by 8 to 10 minutes, there is no chance the Ravens can win the game. I don't think Lamar has had to play from behind a lot in his career, and you can see that's the Chiefs' recipe for beating him is to get up, force him into the air, and force him to make mistakes. So those are my 3, and a lot of it has to do with controlling Lamar Jackson, either keeping him off the field or keeping him from getting outside, because he is the wheels of this offense. He keeps the ball rolling.
Absolutely, that's my number 1 key. I'll throw my couple ones out there. My number 1 is they must contain him. You're not going to be able to completely shut him down, but you got to keep him in the pocket. You mentioned it. Make him beat you as a passer. If you can contain him in that pocket, I think you have a chance, especially, as you said, with a lead. Make him throw the ball. If he's just flat out running the ball, playing the option, the RPO game, it's not a good matchup for anybody in the league, not only us. So make him beat you with his arm rather than his legs. Number 2, we cannot turn the ball over in key situations, especially in the second half. You talked about it earlier. You might get an interception here or there in the first half. That defense is very aggressive. That's what they're built on, is turning the ball over and getting the ball back to that offense, trying to get up. We cannot turn the ball over. We cannot put it on the ground in the second half, especially in key situations. And my last one is we must hit home run shots when they're available. Earl Thomas was released for good reason off the Baltimore Ravens. Deshaun Elliott is not the same coverage type. So they blitz a lot in zero blitz. You might see a lot of single high. Run a couple vertical routes and get the ball down the field to our pass targets. We must hit our home run shots. We can't just take shots. We must hit them. So Chase Claypool, when you get a shot to go vertical, Deontay Johnson, James Washington, combat catch king downfield. We need you guys to make a couple big 20-plus yard completions here. And that's my 3 that I have here, Bo. I'm going to turn it to you first here. We're going to go ahead. It's time. It's prediction time. What's your score here?
So I'm going right with the Vegas line right now. I got Steelers 31, Ravens 27, and I got the Ravens making some trouble for us in the second half. I'm not saying we won't play a complete game against them, but I think the Ravens the Ravens at some point are going to have to open it up, and I don't think that they're going to be able to play this game in their normal run it down your throat fashion. I don't think that we're going to allow it. I think that we're going to have to see them open it up, and I want to see Lamar throw the ball like that MVP that he was last year. And I think he could create some problems. So I think the Ravens are going to score, but like I said, I'm going to go with the Vegas line. I think the Steelers have some really good matchups on offense, like you said, going across the secondary. I think we're going to score on more big plays than I think people think. You know, that's not good for controlling the clock. But if we're going to get up early, it's probably going to come from something like that, because you know as well as I do, Ben likes to come out against teams that want to sit up on the line of scrimmage and just chuck it downfield early.
Absolutely.
Ben likes to let you know to back up, to back it up a little bit. So I think where you see those big plays, we'll see them early. And I like the Steelers to get the lead and play with the lead, but I just don't see the Steelers winning in dominating fashion. They frustrated us every game to this point. So I don't see why against the 5-1 Ravens frustration will be any less. So I think it'll be a tight game. I went with the Vegas line at 31-27 Steelers.
It's kind of a similar ilk. I'm taking the Steelers 31, but I think Baltimore is going to be playing from behind all game. They might get an early touchdown, but I think they're going to have to really make a stomping effort to come back in the second half. I think they're going to have us worried. I don't think we're going to blow them out by any margin. I'm having the Steelers 31, Baltimore Ravens 23. I think we're going to win by over a touchdown on them, and I think it's going to be Jackson makes a couple plays to get them back in it, but they're never to the point where it's that 3-point game. I think we kind of make our statement here this week against Baltimore, saying that we are the number one team. So I think we have a little bit better chance to dominate than maybe some other people think. It's going to be a tough matchup, but Steelers 31, Baltimore Ravens 23. That's pretty much it, Bo. That's it for your first appearance on Steel City Sermon here. I thank you for coming on. I do apologize again for not being able to have you video here. I will have you next time. Made sure that you're set up, because there will be a next time. I do appreciate you jumping on. Loved your insights. If you have yet to, go give this man a follow on Twitter at TSRBo. It's there beside me. I always mess that up. However, whatever, it goes there, right there on the bottom. Bo McCauley. Go make sure you listen to all his podcasts at the TSR, the Scouting Report podcast with Jacob Patterson. I'm going to turn it over to you, Bo. If you have anything you want to plug, tell them where they can follow you. Anything you want to, kind of advertise here. I'm going to have the floor be yours here for a few seconds, bud.
Yeah, like you said, if you could just go over and give me a follow on Twitter at TSRBo. Mine and Jacob's podcast, The Scouting Report, is on Apple, it's on Spotify and SoundCloud every week when we put it out. So go check that out, and go over to stillcurtain.com. I do contributing writing for them, and every Wednesday I come out with a reflection on the power rankings from ESPN or NFL.com. It's been ESPN the last few weeks. I try to keep it consistent. NFL.com was late on putting theirs out, so I switched to ESPN. But whenever y'all get a chance, just go check me out any of those places. The Still Curtain, all clicks are appreciated. It's a paid contribution. So if you could check that out, it'd be great. And I appreciate you, Roy, for having me on. This was a blast. It's a rarity that I get to only talk Steelers. Your insight is great. I don't know many people with football knowledge like you, and you're so well spoken and articulate. And it was a great time, and I really appreciate you for having me on.
Hey, we'll have you again, Bo. I definitely appreciate it. You were an awesome guest, and we'll get you back in here maybe a couple more times before the end of the season. Go give this guy a follow. He knows what he's talking about. Same way with Jacob. It's a great podcast. I listen to it quite a bit here during my weeks as I'm at work here before I get laid off. So great stuff there as always. I do want to plug just a couple other things here. If you have yet to get it, Bo's cohort over at TSR help write for the teams in this bad boy, the Prospect Encyclopedia, blitzalytics.com/shop. The link is in the description here. Go get it for all the players that you need to know of, top 22 players per team, previews, recaps, everything you need. Go get your copy. You can get it on Target. You can get it on Amazon, $35 for the hard copy. You can get a full PDF for $15, I believe. Then if you don't want to buy that, if you just want to see the matchups of maybe some underrated players per team per week, it's $5 for a team PDF. Go get yourself one of them. Go to buyjack.com, get some Blitzalytics swag. One of my shirts here, as you can see, Stay Humble, Be a Blessing. There's some similar ones like that, Steel City Sermon, from our boy Rob Graphics. He has his own line on there as well. Go buy some of his merch. If you want to catch me up on the Twitter, my personal Twitter is @PreacherBoyRoy. If you want to hit the show's Twitter, it's @SteelCitySermon. And as always, how I like to end mine, stay humble and be a let me go back. Stay humble and be a blessing.
Pittsburgh Steelers.
Pittsburgh do this all the time. I've been playing them for 13 years. When you avoid the middle, they go into the middle. It's never changed.
For my life from the long arm of the Lord.